So this tutorial today will instruct you how to fill out the TBT 5-step process. The first thing that you want to do is log into your first class email. On the desktop, on the top row, you will see the district-wide info. Double click, and inside, look for the state and federal programs shared area. Double click again. The last folder you need to open is the TBT requirement forms. It is found in the top left-hand corner. And then within, you'll see Step 2, TBT Minutes.
This is a form that your TBT teams will use on a weekly basis to record their minutes. At the top of the form, please make sure that you have all of these components filled out. The roles should be determined before your meeting. Facilitator, your learning target, grade, subject, reporter, timekeeper. All of those roles should be determined before your TBT weekly meeting. During your weekly meetings, your team will be working on one of the 5 steps. Whatever step that your team is working on, just record the date and what information that the team discussed during that meeting. Understanding that this TBT weekly minute form should be used for the entire quarter, because you will utilize whatever step you're on and document the date. So that means that you are not utilizing a new TBT weekly agenda every week. You're just going to document what step you were on and what information was covered during that time. As we had talked about with the Data Day video, during your weekly meetings, if you have already determined your quarterly assessment, analyzed that data, you have those 3 learning targets that we talked about. During your TBT meetings, you are really talking about those learning targets. The step that most TBTs will be working on weekly is step 3. Actually talking about, is that instructional strategy that is selected, is it working? Are students growing? So weekly in your TBT meetings, you're really talking about step 3, that instructional strategy, and what information are teachers collecting to ensure that students are on the upward trajectory to student mastery. We are going to go all the way down to this form. This is where we had talked about in your Data Day that you have those 3 learning targets. For each one of those learning targets, you should have a short cycle assessment. That when we had talked about in Data Day, where you get that baseline data, up here where it says date and pre-test, that is where your teachers will document what was that baseline data for, let's say, that first learning target. We are also going to be able to communicate after we have done our post-assessment, the date and the post-assessment date, but most importantly, the strategy used in order to make sure that students are reaching student mastery. All right, if you can look at the column where it says teacher data without subgroup, it is very important that, again, this information is input before the meeting. Lots of buildings have this information already on their P drive with the teachers' names already populated into this columns. Teachers just go in, input their information, and this form is printed for the actual TBT meeting, so that the time is spent on talking about what are we doing as teachers and what are our students doing and are they growing. If you look at the column where it says proficient pre, proficient post, as a team, you need to determine before you complete this form, what, again, just like we did for Data Day, what do we consider as a team is proficient, close to proficient, or far from proficient. This information will really help your teachers be able to complete this form in a timely fashion so that it will be prepared for their weekly TBT meetings. The subgroup data at the bottom is actually buildings are utilizing this portion of the form in different ways. Some buildings are documenting all of their subgroups. Some buildings are documenting the subgroup that has the widest gap in their building. So here again, teacher's name could be already populated, and teachers would just go into their P drive at their building, input their information. The principal or the designee gives the building the timeline in which this information needs to be filled out. So during the meeting, this form is already complete, and we can have those wonderful, meaningful conversations about our students growing. Again, this form for pre and post data is utilized for, again, remember on data day, we identify those 3 learning targets. This form is to determine if we have met that learning target and is there student mastery. This is an important form. So again, this form will be utilized every 3 to 4 weeks. The team actually determines that. I hope that you have gotten great information about the 5-step process TBT Minutes form, and I look forward to us learning more about the OIP process.